File systems. Before going into brief, let's see the definition of the file systems. A file system defines the structure and the rules used to read, write, and maintain information stored on the disk. The type of a file system to be used for our system is determined by hardware, software, and security needs. Let's talk about the basic things about files. A file name should have 1 to 255 characters. This includes the path. You can use uppercase and lowercase letters. You can use spaces and period. And the character which you cannot use are backslash, forward slash, colon, star, question mark, quotation, greater than, smaller than, and a pipeline symbol. Next, a file name consists of two parts. One is the file name, actual file name, and the file extension. The file name and the extension are separated by the period operator, which is a dot. Windows typically associates a file extension with an application installed on a computer. And the folder names also follow the same guidelines of naming as the files. Folder names usually do not have a file extension. Some of the basic file operations are creating the file, deleting the file, opening the file, closing the file, and performing read and write on the files. Before going to the type of the file system, let's talk about the FAT. FAT is a file allocation table where the OS records how the disk space is used. Types of the file system. There are three types of file system: FAT16, FAT32, and NTFS. FAT16 is the oldest version of the file system, which is supported by most of the OSs. It cannot be installed on partitions larger than 2 GB or on hard drives larger than 4 GB. FAT32 is compatible with Windows 98 and upwards. It supports disks from 512 to 2 TB. The next one is NTFS, that is New Technology File System. It supports better file security, disk compression, logging features, reliability, and stability. NTFS volumes cannot access by DOS or Windows 95 or 98. Next, where the operating system keeps track of data, that is documents, pictures, etc., by placing it into a file. To store and retrieve files, the following operations will take place. First, the disk is divided into tracks, and then tracks are divided into sectors, and then sectors are grouped into clusters. The number of sectors in a cluster is determined by size of the hard drive or the file allocation table used. When you format a disk, operating system divides the disk into tracks, and the tracks in turn divided into sectors, which is of 512 bytes in size, and the sectors are grouped into clusters. Let's talk about the two-sided disk. Each side has 80 tracks, which are in turn divided into 18 sectors, and each sector is of 512 bytes. So the total size will be 1.4 megabytes. Here is the picture which determines how the disk is divided into tracks, and the tracks are divided into sectors, and sectors are grouped into cluster. Then a hard disk has extremely smooth metal or glass plates called platters. Each platter is divided into tracks and sectors by the format operation. Like a floppy disk, however, the number of tracks and sectors is different. The number of tracks on a hard disk depends on the disk size and the manufacturer. Clusters. A cluster, also known as an allocation unit, consists of one or more sectors of storage space. The number of sectors per cluster is dependent on type of disk, version of operating system, and the size of the disk. Every sector contains 512 bytes. This table shows size of the cluster of different file system, which depends on drive size. Let's take an example where file is of 2 KB and hard drive is of 2 GB. As you can see, because of the smaller cluster size, the NTFS file system is most efficient to store this file into the hard disk. So what does this all mean to a Windows XP user? This means the bigger your disk, the bigger your clusters. To overcome from this problem of slack space, reduce the drive size, which will in turn reduce the cluster size. Here is the criteria to which file system to be used. If your computer runs only Windows XP and you do not plan to install other OS, use NTFS. However, if you want to use other OS and you want to access the volumes, you must use FAT16 or FAT32. This table shows operating system and file system compatibility. During the formatting process, OS creates 4 tables in the first sector. First is the boot record, which stores the name and version number of the OS. Next is the master file table 1, which keep track of available clusters, clusters that contain data, clusters that are defective, and clusters that contain OS files. Next is the master file table 2, which is a copy of MFT1. And next is the directory table, which stores top level folder and file information. There are 2 types of formatting process. During full format, it lays down new tracks and sectors and also verifies the integrity of each sector, whereas during quick format, it will remove files and it will not check for defective sectors. Should you want to format the disk? Next is a file that is associated with an application on your computer via its file extension, whereas this file is stored in the registry. The registry is a database that consists of set of files where Windows XP stores your computer's hardware, software, network, security, OLE information, user settings or profiles, and property settings for folders and programs. Next, here is one video that demonstrates how to convert from one file system to other.